It is a privilege and honor to be selected as an honored ally for Equality Ohio. I'm an unapologetic supporter of what they do, so it is an extreme honor to be recognized for all the effort and work that Equality Ohio has put into making Ohio a better place to live. I'm, quite frankly, damn glad to be a part of it. I actually accept this award for on behalf of all professionals in my line of work, including lawyers. And by that, I mean the extraordinary people over at Equality Ohio, of course, led by Elena, and obviously the great people that I work with at the Ohio Civil Rights Commission that made this possible. I also accept this award for it on behalf of all members of the LGBTQ community that yearn for freedom, that are victims of discrimination, that look to that day in the future sometime when they will be afforded equal treatment under law. So I accept that, knowing that our work is not done, and we've got to keep charging up the hill. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that I'm a steady ally and an effective advocate for equal rights. Having said that, though, the event today, while I think that there's probably going to be a lot of smiling faces, a lot of people that are probably swelled up with pride of some of the recent accomplishments that we've had with these rights, I warn people that we live in some very, very interesting, challenging times. You know, the brief rights that we've recently secured can vanish in one court decision. And we can't be subject to changing court compositions. You know, I think that the enjoyment of equality is far too important to be left to the whims of changing court compositions. And therefore, the fight must be for changing statutory law, both state and federal statutory laws, so that that can be a standard, no different than that accorded to other protected groups, regardless of whether it's sex, race, disability, age, and a host of other protections that we need not get into right now. So I think that while we celebrate our accomplishments, I think we're going to have to reach deep down in and remember that what brings us to this event is grim conduct. What I mean by that is that men and women who are seeking to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are being fired from their jobs, for example, having a different sexual orientation or identity or expression. They are being evicted from apartments. They're being called names on street corners. They're being told that they're not welcome in places of public accommodation. These are stories that are, in my view, they lead to a trail of tears. They lead to a conclusion that our state can do and our nation can do much better when it comes to full equality. There's much to be done in that stead. So I think we need to, get our second wind, bow our necks up, so to speak. Because I know, for example, on Thursday, I believe the Fairness Act has a hearing in the House, our legislature. Double down on our efforts, do as much fundraising as we can, because there's a lot of teaching and preaching that we need to do in order to attain full equality, and the fight's not over. But I also say that we've been at this for quite some time, Christopher. I can remember when I first met Elena. Boy, spent a long time fighting the fight to secure a legislative change there. You know, there comes a time when men and women that have a different sexual orientation or a different gender identity or expression, there comes a time for according equality of rights set forth in our Declaration of Independence, most of us probably take for granted. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. there comes a time when we make that a reality rather than just some empty promise. And I think the time, as I've said before, that legislative changes, therefore, at the right time, for the right reasons, and we need to go do it, and we need to get it done as soon as possible because, our state could be hemorrhaging talent. By that, I mean the talent of everybody. We want to enjoy and embrace and benefit from the talent of all individuals. And we can't do that if there's not a level playing field, if people are victims of discrimination. So in closing, let me just say that I am inspired by the work of Equality Ohio. I'm super inspired by your leader, Elena. She inspires me. She's one of my heroes for once. She gives me juice, she gives me effort, she gives me energy every time we do this. Also, I'm influenced by a dear friend of mine, Chief McNeil, who I used to work with a long time at the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. He's inspirational to me. And last but not least, was a person that part of the planning committee for this event, Dr. Herb Asher. I first met Dr. Asher, cut my teeth with him as a young student at Ohio State, well over 40 years ago. And here I am, thanks to him, still fighting the fight. So I want to give a special hello to all of them, but I can assure you that I will continue my efforts to do everything that I can to see that everybody is accorded full equality of rights as they should expect, and they need not apologize to anybody for. And I'll just leave you with these thoughts. One of my favorite quotes is from the poet Maya Angelou. She said that if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. I'm going to change my attitude because I'm not satisfied with where we are right now. I hope that all of Equality Ohio Nation changes this attitude too. Keeps charging up the hill. We will get there one day, thanks to people like Elena and the great people at Equality Ohio, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you so much for the award. Allyship or advocacy means to me, it means that we get outside of ourselves. It means that we advocate. It means to sometimes even agitate, quite frankly. And by that I mean we challenge the thoughts of other people that are comfortable with their thoughts that are somehow erroneous as it relates to full enjoyment of rights. So to me, avocation means also, it occurred to me, many times when I was over at our legislature, that advocacy means giving voice to the voiceless. It occurred to me more than once over there, and it humbled me, quite frankly, to think of all the men and women that were probably relying on me to provide a voice for them, because they couldn't grab a microphone and to talk about and share their stories of heartbreak and pain of the things that were happening to them. So advocacy to me was to give voice to the voiceless, to give much needed support and affirmation that, yes, our state and our laws, there's enough room. Maybe I should put it this way. Advocacy to me means that we need to make enough room at the dinner table of justice for all our LGBT friends and allies to get a full helping of freedom. I think there's enough food at the dinner table of justice to get second helpings, and to get a belly full of desserts. So advocacy to me means standing forth and attempting to empathize with others, although we may not have that attribute, but to empathize and not being apologetic for loving somebody else, quite frankly. So if I've answered your question. I'll just say this, one of the privileges that I've had is to travel out our state, and I've been in all our 88 counties in our state. I've actually met people of all different persuasions and everything, and I think at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing. I think sometimes we allow others to draw us apart, but everybody wants the same thing, and I've learned that I think there are more people that are embrace full equality for everyone than what we know of. That's why I'm very, very optimistic about our prospects for improving the legal status in Ohio for the much needed legislative changes. At the same time, though, I've met people that have strong feelings, some of them religious. I can respect that. But at the same time, as I often tell them, these are not spatial rights. There's nothing spatial about it. When you actually think about it, it's something that's accorded to everybody that otherwise is a full citizen. The set forth in our Declaration of Independence, what we're supposed to be: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I don't see how you do that if you don't have full equality in what I call the three dimensions of life: where you work, where you live, and where you play. And by that, obviously employment, housing, and where we shop, and where we basically spend our hard-earned money. And if you don't have full equality there, it's hard to imagine how one could ever enjoy the fruits of their labor without being fully free in all of those dimensions. So I obviously try to convince them that I think the mere fact that somebody loves somebody else, for example, doesn't affect me, quite frankly, by privacy. And I think those things that don't affect others they should have no problem with. There's nothing threatened here. There's nothing spatial. Nobody's carving out some sort of oasis of freedom for one select group over another. We're according them, bringing them up to par, to the same starting line as everybody else, because they're so far behind in the race just because we have not recognized them as a full participant in the human race. So that's my answer there. Does morality follow law, or does law follow morality? I think that's the philosophical question. Let me just say that I think they're both equal. You could have a head full of rights and a belly full of hunger. So I think the legal aspect it sets forth a standard, a legal standard that's enforceable, that we all, an aspiration, if you will, of our society that we need to, as a goal that we strive towards. The more personal aspect is one that's a very, very challenging one, because, it's down to the level, as you well know, everything to the family level. Heard many stories of heartbreak dealing with families being splintered and broken up and torn apart because somebody merely has a different sexual orientation, for example, to friendships and things like that. And I don't think that there shouldn't be that type of friction in these relationships. I don't know that, for example, Christopher, you have to live a life that satisfies me if we live in a true democracy, as much as you live a life that satisfies you, that makes you happy, that you love the people that you love. I can't walk in your shoes and I can't get in your skin, and it's a little fanciful for me to try to impose my beliefs, my values, so-called values, off on others. So I think that they're both important. I guess I've often said that, for example, if you think back on slavery, if law could set us free, would have been free a long time ago. But I do think the law sets a standard, and therefore it's a standard that which we can then pursue socially and otherwise, but without the other. I think so. It's like eating milk without syrup. I think you need both of those in order to have true freedom.